Hey guys. Dude, what are these intros? Alright guys, so today we're going to be talking about a topic that's a little more low-key, something I've been seeing a few people talk about recently on gaming forums and on YouTube. And I have a lot of other big YouTube videos in the works right now. I'm talking with my editor, writing some scripts, and filming small parts of the content now, and those will be coming soon. But in the meantime, I'm gonna just be making some shorter videos about my thoughts on some general gaming topics for you guys. And if you like content like this, make sure to let me know down below. Leave a like on this video, or go check me out on my Twitch channel. That way we can talk about those things there as well. But thank you guys for watching, and without further ado, let's get started. So today I want to touch on something that a lot of people have been talking about recently, and that's backwards compatibility. So with the Xbox and the PS5 coming out soon, probably around this holiday season from what they've been saying, both the companies kind of have their own ideas and ideologies about how they should be handling backwards compatibility, and they've been pushing this in their marketing, and I've been seeing a bunch of people arguing about this on threads on Reddit, on YouTube, and just forums across the internet, and I wanted to touch on my thoughts personally.
Backward compatibility.
So for those of you who don't know, basically how the marketing is working right now is for the Xbox Series X, Microsoft's newest console, they're marketing that this thing will basically be able to do backwards compatibility for any other titles that they previously released, obviously for the Xbox One, and even for a large magnitude of Xbox 360 games as well. While on the other hand, Sony with the PlayStation 5 is focused more on, at least in their marketing, as they've said, on kind of pushing games forward and not looking too much to the past, and instead just saying, hey, we're gonna have a new console for new games. And while they have said that they're gonna have a lot of games that you're gonna be able to play from the previous generation on the PS5, their marketing is definitely focused on targeting newer games and not the old. And I wanted to talk to you guys today about why I think backwards compatibility isn't really that important, and I'm surprised people are so adamant about wanting it in their consoles, especially on the Xbox side, where I don't think it's as important as people think. So for any of you who don't know about the Xbox backwards compatibility program, it's actually more than just being able to play your Xbox One games on Xbox Series X. It's also going to bring a lot of new features into these old games, like higher frame rates, higher resolution, 4K, 120 FPS, and newer technologies like HDR, which will really just brighten the scenes in a lot of these old and muddied out games. And while I think this is really interesting and really cool, the idea of playing Gears of War 1 at 120 FPS in 4K with HDR and all the colors shining through, that sounds really interesting on the forefront, and there's a lot of people that hear that and think, wow, I can't wait to jump into that game. But I think realistically, people aren't thinking about how worthwhile investing this amount of time and resources into a backwards compatibility program, how really worthwhile that is, and how it affects maybe newer games and acquisitions, and what I would argue is more important for creating a good console or in general gaming ecosystem. One of the first games I played as a kid that I really fell in love with was StarCraft and also Age of Mythology. I was a huge RTS fan. And I remember as a kid loving those games to death. I would literally tell my dad if I scored a goal at my soccer tournaments, he would say, okay, fine, I'll play a round of StarCraft with you. And that was what made me so excited, and the whole reason I was working so hard at soccer, just to come home and play these games. And I loved them back in the day. I found so much enjoyment out of them. And when I heard Age of Mythology and StarCraft were both getting remasters, I was super excited. I was like, holy shit, I get to jump into these games that essentially like spawned my love for gaming as a kid. And it's cool, right? And it sounds cool, and it sounds like it's going to be really awesome. And it is for 30 minutes. So when I got back into StarCraft and Age of Mythology, I got both these games when the remastered versions came out, and they were pretty similar to what I remembered. I jumped in, there was better textures, the lighting looked better, the units looked more realistic, and in general it was just better than it was before. It was just an enhanced version. But as I played, I just couldn't shake this feeling that this game felt old. And for quite literally 30 minutes in both games, I sat there and I felt nostalgia and it was cool, but I slowly realized that these games aren't as fun as I remember. And I think that goes for a lot of older games, as people tend to always argue that gaming was better in the past and it's gotten worse in the future. But when you actually go back and play these games again, even the remastered versions, you start to see the flaws and the things you forgot about and the things that nostalgia hid from you. And quite literally, all of these old games I've gone back to play, including what I've already mentioned, Mass Effect 1 is another game I went back. I just can't get into them. And a lot of the reason is because these games are old, but an even bigger reason is just, I think, a mentality that a lot of gamers, including myself, have of always looking forward to the new and best thing. I'm used to buying the newest game every year, what is super popular, and playing that with friends. And going back to what I enjoyed before, while it's a fun nostalgia trip for a little bit, is it really worth the time and investment to just make all of these games backwards compatible with all of these new features? It's cool and it's awesome, but is it worth it? Would time better be spent on newer games, on newer studio acquisitions, on new IPs that are brand new overall, new ideas that the gaming landscape hasn't even seen? Would I rather go back and play StarCraft in 4K at 120 FPS with all of the models looking like goddamn supermodels? Would I rather just get StarCraft 3? And I think that's a question we really have to think about. Because even if StarCraft 3 is significantly worse than the first game was in its heyday, realistically, StarCraft 1 is dead. And it's not coming back, even if the textures look cooler, even if the sounds sound better. Realistically, we as people always look forward to the next best thing. And I don't think it's valuable to put so much resources and time into saving these old artifacts of games. Leave that to emulators. Leave that to people that just want to crack the code later on down the line, and let people play these games for the 30 minutes that they deserve, not for 8 hours in an entirely new system setting. I think PlayStation's idea of looking forward to the future, not only in their marketing but in their new console, is a lot more beneficial for gaming overall than maybe Xbox trying to relive the past too much. Because as cool as it is to look back on all these games that we loved as kids, or even just 10, 20 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, that we enjoyed playing, are you realistically going to be playing that game as much as you would a new game? Would you enjoy it as much as you and your friends would on a new Call of Duty as playing a very old one? It's hard to say. And this is coming from someone who's generally more of an Xbox fanboy as well. I had an Xbox 360 growing up. I moved to PC, and I tend to like Xbox more nowadays just because they have all of their games on PC, and I love their consumer-friendly approach to gaming as a whole, which includes backwards compatibility. But I think they're looking at the wrong place here. Do we really need backwards compatibility? Is it really useful in the ways we think? Or is our nostalgia just making us think we would enjoy it more than it would? Overall, backwards compatibility isn't a bad thing in and of itself. Being able to play old games at 4K, 120 FPS with HDR on is an amazing feat, and by no means is that bad on its own. But I think spending resources and that amount of time, allowing those games to come back, is kind of a waste. But also, I do see the other side as well, because in another argument would be, well, now that the technology's there, going forward, all of these games will be kept and upgraded as it goes through. And I think, while my opinion now is that Sony is in the right, I think if Xbox can continue to do their marketing well and keep this technology going forward and constantly increasing all games, long term, they might just prove me wrong. What are your guys' thoughts, though, down below? Let me know what you think about backwards compatibility. What do you think about Sony versus Xbox in this newest, console war? Do you think Sony's right for focusing on newer games and new experiences? Or do you think Xbox is right for preserving everything that we loved and held and cherished before? Personally, I think backwards compatibility, people are too high on it, and maybe they need to tone it down a little bit, but I could be wrong, honestly. And like I said, guys, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate the support. If you want to see more videos like this, or there's any interesting topics you want to hear me talk about, come to my stream, talk to me live with it, or let me know down below in the comments, and I'll definitely make a video on it and let you guys know my thoughts as well, as I love hearing from you guys and having that community discussion. But thank you guys very much. I appreciate you all coming through, and I will see you on the next one.